Dan Forrester, a biology teacher and former Green Beret, is unable to find work at the Army Research Laboratory in December 2022. Meanwhile, soldiers from the year 2051 appear on the field to disrupt the World Cup. They announced that in November 2048, aliens known as white spikes will appear in Russia and wipe out the majority of humanity in 3 years. The present-day world sends its militaries into the future via the JumpLink, a crude wormhole device. This results in an international draft, but only about 30% of those selected survive their 7-day deployment. Dan is eventually called up for the draft. The draftees are transported forward in time to a battleground in Miami Beach, but due to a malfunction, they are dropped hundreds of feet in the air, with the majority dying, while a small group lands safely in a pool. Their commander then directs them to save any nearby lab personnel before sterilizing the area. The draftees discover that all of the lab personnel have died, but they are able to recover their research. Dan and 2 other draftees, a scientist named Charlie and Dorian, who is on his 3rd deployment, survive the firebombing. Colonel Murray Forrester, Dan's daughter, oversees a forward operating base in Puerto Plata. She informs him that there is a toxin that kills male white spikes but not female queens, and she requests his assistance in capturing a female white spike in order to refine the toxin to be fatal to them. She also informs Dan that he was disillusioned in the past after failing to get his research job. It led to his divorce from Emmy. He was killed in a car accident when Murray was 16. They capture a female white spike but are attacked by hundreds of males and escape narrowly. They then travel to DEPSWELL-9, a fortified offshore oil platform located 25 miles east of Port Nelson and home to the JumpLink facility. Murray is successful in developing a toxin that is lethal to female white spikes. However, it cannot be mass-produced in that time period, so she requests that Dan transport it back in time to produce it there and prevent the war. In a coordinated effort to protect their queen, male white spikes quickly overrun the base, killing Murray. Dan returns to the past to get away from them. Contact is then lost with the future, indicating that the JumpLink has been destroyed and the future war has been lost, causing widespread panic. Dan and Emmy deduced later that the white spikes arrived on Earth before 2048 because there was no record of their ship arriving. Dan and Charlie consult with Dan's student, Martin, an amateur volcanologist, after discovering volcanic ash on a white spike's claw. They conclude that the white spikes have existed on Earth since the Millennium eruption in 946 AD. Dan leads a mission to Russia with Charlie, Dorian, the missing future soldiers, and his estranged Vietnam veteran father James. They discover the alien ship frozen in ice beneath the Academy of Sciences glacier and speculate that global warming will eventually free them. Additionally, the frozen bodies of a reptilian-like alien species are discovered on board, leading the group to believe that the ship crash-landed on Earth and that the white spikes were designed to help wipe out a planet's native population in order for them to colonize. They then inject the lethal toxin into several white spikes that have been hypersleeping. This rouses the rest of the colony, which launches an attack. The queen white spike flees after awakening. Dorian, who is dying of cancer, stays behind and blows up the ship while Dan and James go after the queen. Dan shoves the toxin into the queen's mouth and kills her after a fight. Dan brings his father home to meet Emmy and Murray, happy that the war has been averted and humanity has been saved. He is determined not to make the same mistakes that Murray warned him about in the future. That's all, guys. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe the channel. Hit the subscribe button, leave me a comment,